Hey there everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another episode of Kerbal Space Program. Got a couple of things planned for today. Well, to start off, we're going to be doing a couple more probe launches from our interplanetary expedition to Jool. And as you see here, we have one probe set up for an intercept with, what do we have? Val. Yes, Val for this one. And I did cut out a little bit earlier where all I did was just make a little plane adjustment. But other than that, we are pretty good for our orbit. And as you can see, we do have an intersect there. It is a literal intersect with the planet. We'll be going to be crashing right into it. But no, we just fixed that a little bit, so it's all good. Oh my god, there's such a mess on the screen with all the different orbits and the maneuver node and your estimated trajectory out of the encounter and all that. I wish there was a way to clean it up a little bit better, like maybe turn off the orbits that you're not currently trying to make an intercept with or something like that. I don't know, I'm sure something's in the works by the guys at Squad. They are pretty awesome. They do make an awesome game. Anyway, I'm just making a quick little burn here to make sure we don't crash into the planet or into the moon, because that would be very, very bad. Don't have to use a whole lot of fuel on that. As you can see, we still have plenty of fuel. And zooming on forward there. And now I'm just in my head in the game. I'm trying to figure out what is going on. Why can't I do anything? Well, that's because I don't have any sunlight right now. Yeah, thanks, Lathe. Just perfect placement there. Thank you so much for that. So yeah, I was seriously afraid I would just end up crashing into the planet because, well, if Lathe doesn't get out of the way, I don't have power. Yep, checking the panel there. It says it's blocked by Lathe. What are the chances that it would just be perfectly in the way as I'm trying to make an encounter? But anyway, a little bit further down the line, we get our sun power back, and here we go. We're trying to make an orbit. And I do start off just burning retrograde directly to slow myself down a little bit, but then I burn slightly in between the prograde and the retrograde, basically just shifting my orbit over a little bit, so it's lowering the apoapsis, and well, you can see it there, it's raising the periapsis. Neat little maneuver you can do. There we go. We should have, well, we have one end of it there. I'm not going to show you the whole orbiting procedure, because all you got to do is just circularize the orbit. But yeah, this is Val. It looks nice. I mean, it looks like a giant ice ball, basically. And I can't wait to land on it. I'm pretty sure, yeah, Lathe is the only other planet in the Kerbal system that has any water, so, or I guess it's not a planet, it's a moon, but the only other celestial body. So yeah, that kind of looks like ice. Who knows, maybe in the future we can dig into that ice and find water there, and signs of life, and all that wonderful stuff. But anyhow, there we go. We have our orbit with Val. Just extending that what's it called? It's the comm thing. Yes, that's what it's called. It's called the comm thing. And again, there is no use for all the comm modules because, well, the game hasn't introduced that quite yet. They just have the models in the game, but they don't do anything other than make things look pretty. Or, you know, in the case of the actual interplanetary stage that got all the probes out here, the comm dish is in the way when I'm trying to undock some of these little probes off of the top there. I did actually think about something. I was trying to, because Jool doesn't have a ton of moons. I mean, it does have a lot more than any other system, so there is that. But I will probably have a couple of probes left at the end. I might send out some more probes to other moons, or maybe double up on a moon or something. But either way, I might have a little bit of fuel left in those probes. Probably won't be enough to do anything with the main craft itself, but we'll see. Anyway, just because I didn't show you last time, you can see there we do have to make a plane adjustment. It's not really a big problem, but it does end up using about a third of our fuel, roughly, so there is that. If I'd had enough fuel left in the interplanetary stage, I could have done all of that before, but yeah, looking back on it now, I probably should have just sacrificed a little bit of fuel out of some of these probes and just adjusted my plane with the interplanetary stage itself, but well, did not get done. Next time. Anyhow, we do have it set up to adjust our plane and to burn out towards our next target, which is Pole, I think. Yes, that's Pole. So, yeah, there we go. We have that working on making a little bit of better orbit right now, so we can get ourselves an intercept. Anyway, I'm just going to skip over a lot of the stuff that gets cut out in these episodes is really me just messing around with maneuver nodes and travel time and all that. Unless it's not a big deal like here. So yeah, if anybody's curious why there are so many cuts, it's really just me messing with maneuver nodes for the most part. Anyway, we're going to make a quick burn here, and as you can see, I didn't circularize the orbit because it wouldn't have been even. So I'm going to try to make... well, I just made that little burn there to help me out a little bit with my intersects. As you can see, we have one right there, but it requires quite a bit of burning. So I'm going to give it a try at the other end, and well, what do you know? We have pretty much the exact same intercept, but much less fuel used up. What is that, like 20 meters a second? I can't really see on my preview window here, but regardless, we're going to be using about a tenth of the delta V that we needed if we were to have done it the other way, burning at the periapsis, or at the apoapsis, sorry. But anyhow, here we go, getting set up for our burn. And always good to just cancel the maneuver node when you get close to whatever, so you can see a little bit better. So I canceled it just before the intersect itself, so I could actually see what's going on in there. And it is kind of a funky intersect, but that's okay. We will work on that later. Also got to make sure I adjust myself so I'm facing the sun, or at least some of the solar panels are facing the sun, because I don't want to lose power. That was one really crappy part about trying to meet up with some of these moons. Basically, Jool kept getting in the way a lot of the time, so I did have an intersect with Bop at one point, but, well, Jool was in the way, so I actually couldn't slow down enough to get caught up in Bop's sphere of influence. So that kind of sucked, but that's alright. I'm sure we'll get another chance. Anyway, just making some more quick adjustments here as we get getting a lot closer to Pole there. We can see exactly what we need to do. So basically I just shifted my orbit a little bit over to the side, and now I'm just going to be adjusting upwards a little bit, because it would have been really weird, like half-polar orbit type thing. So anyway, now we should be coming in very close to the equator. Should be pretty good. And there we go, that's the last burn before we get in close to Pole. Gonna be getting caught in its influence right about now, and there we are. So all we gotta do now is just, again, circularize the orbit, slow down enough, and we'll be good. We will have orbit around the third moon. There are 2 moons left that I still need to hit up. I still need to do Bop, and I still need to do Lathe. But other than that, I think we have all the other moons covered so far. Anyway, yeah, you can see Pole over here. Just looks like a big chunk of poop. It's basically just, well, because it's so far out from everything, there's nothing on the planet's surface. Just a little ball of, again, little ball of poop. That's what we'll call it. Pole is the ball of poop. Basically just an asteroid that got caught up in Jool's influence there, so... Anyhow, we're going to adjust ourselves here, point the comm array, that's what I'm going to call it. Nah, comm thingy sounds better. Point that back at our original vehicle that got us here. And now we go back to Kerbin for a quick little construction. So this is the old lander that I had. I had to do a quick little change to it because, well, that lander you just saw, I started off with the probe as the main control module or whatever, and unfortunately that means that I don't have any crew in the lander itself, so I would have had to stop somewhere in orbit and then send out one of my buses, put a crew on there and all that. So anyway, we're basically just rebuilding it from the bottom up, making some minor adjustments, but this way it'll be using the lander part itself as the main part, so I will always have 2 crew members in there, which is nice. Don't have to worry about, getting some other dudes up there. So anyway, just quick little design here. This is sped up to 3 times speed. because, well, a lot of these videos when I do post commentaries will be sped up just because it makes a lot more sense. I honestly, I do prefer the post commentaries because it allows me to edit out a lot of the useless stuff that just takes up time. So I might do a lot more post commentaries in the future with Kerbal. Might just do mixes. I don't know, we'll see. Either way, we got our landing legs on there, got those lights underneath the legs, just in case we will need them. Got the 4 parachutes on the side. This is going to be a universal lander. So, oh, got a cough. Sorry about that, I'm coming down with a bit of a cold. Anyhow, yeah, so this will be a universal lander, so I will try to get as much on there as possible. There are still a few things, looking back on it now, that I could have put on there, like some science-y tools and all that. But I'm sure I will make those changes at a later point. For now, though, we're just setting up the interplanetary stage here. Going to have 4 engines instead of just 2, like I usually do. I think this will work out nicely. And I'm not going to show you the bottom stage after this strutting here, because the bottom stage is something you guys have seen before. It is the typical asparagus staging with the big orange tanks. Anyhow, this is the final product. Just going to make sure our gimbaling is turned off on those outer engines. Only want to have the center one, and, well, technically all the other engines are gimbaling as well, but they are much, much smaller engines, so the gimbaling shouldn't affect us as much. Anyhow, there we go. Just going to toss a drogue chute on top in case we ever bring this lander to Duna or something like that. Duna, I think, or even Lathe would make good use of a drogue chute. Anyhow, we got sunrise here. We're on the launch pad. Let's get this baby into space. Man, those engines are loud. But again, you're not going to have to see the whole launch because you have seen it before. It's nothing special. Dump those tanks and we'll just move forward through time a little bit. Pretend we're time travelers. You gotta love the editing. Editing is fun. Anyhow, push up our orbit here. Again, not the most efficient way of doing it, but I do have so much delta V in those bottom tanks that I might as well push myself up as high as possible. You can see I still have a ton left in that tank, but again, the lowest that the periapsis was there was just underneath the top of the atmosphere, so when I do switch over to that main stage, it'll be able to just drop down into the atmosphere. It'll get dragged down by the atmospheric drag. And anyhow, this is the purpose of this lander. We'll be sending it over to Minmus. Since I have done a moon landing, I figure I might as well do a Minmus landing. This will also give me a good idea of the capabilities of this bottom stage, the interplanetary stage. Just to see how much fuel I have left at the end after making the burn and all that, to know if where I can make it in the Kerbal system. And oh, look at that, what do we know? We actually have an intercept right off the bat. You could almost say that I planned that, but I most definitely did not plan that. It's kind of a funky intercept again, since I'm not really... I just kind of set it up to be like, whatever, we have an intercept, we're good, let's just go for it. I could have spent a bit more time playing around with it, but that's alright. Should have realized right there that, again, I was coming in on the wrong side of the planet, or the moon. I seem to really enjoy doing that, and it's a big waste of fuel. But thankfully, Minmus has such low gravity that, well, as you'll see in a little bit, you can do some pretty crazy maneuvers in orbit around it that you would not be able to do anywhere else. So anyway, just going to be burning towards Minmus now. You don't need to see the burn, because it is a couple of minutes long. So, yeah. You do get to see the ship, though, as it heads away from the planet. And 2 little Kerbals there in the corner, freaking out as always. A quick little lighting test there of our landing lights. Everything looks good. And here we go. We are on intersect course. And yeah, the bottom stage there, not great on fuel, but It should be enough, I think, if I toss a little bit more extra on top of those little ones that are on the fuel tanks that are on top of the actual engines themselves. If I toss a bit more fuel on there, it should be fine. Anyway, halfway out there, I realized I was running out of power, and luckily you can turn your solar panels on, extend them outwards, even when you have no power. So that saved my ass. Otherwise, I would have been screwed. Would have had a dead vehicle. Anyway, here we go. There's Minmus. Minmus is a shiny little moon. It actually looks quite a bit like Val if you think about it. Nowhere near as mountainy, but still looks pretty good. And there is one really good feature about Minmus. I would actually recommend Minmus over the moon if you're trying to figure out how to land and all that, because it does have much lower gravity. And as you'll see when I choose my landing site, there are certain places, the ice lakes, you can see it like right in the center there. It's that greenish area that's sunk into the planet. The ice lakes are actually at sea level, so you can use your altimeter, the one that's up on top of the screen, when you're trying to land without having to worry about anything. So anyway, here actually I'm trying to figure out how am I going to switch my orbit around. And, well, basically what you want to do is make a full stop pretty much in space and then start accelerating the other way. That is essentially what it comes down to. But if you want to see it done using a maneuver node, this is basically what it is. You're constantly adjusting your plane, pulling in your orbit, adjusting your plane, and so on and so forth until it eventually becomes like that. And there we are. We have a nice equatorial orbit set up, which we'll get to in just a second here. And again, if you look at the screen, at the estimated delta V that I have to use, it's really not a lot. What is that, just over 100? Yeah, that's really nothing. Okay, look how quick the orbit just flips around. Again, it is sped up a little bit to 2 times speed, but still, doesn't take much. So yeah, it's Minmus is really, really good. While you can afford to make lots of mistakes, and you should be pretty good, it does take more delta V to get to Minmus than it does getting to the moon, obviously, since it is further away. And you do also have to make that little bit of a plane adjustment. But landing on Minmus, so much easier. Anyway, just going to work on circularizing our orbit there. Because, well, next stage is the landing itself. Which I'm going to set up in just a second here. We're going to disconnect or decouple the lander up top there. Kind of cool with those solar panels, actually. It looks kind of like a plane or something. Anyway, just going to use the maneuver node to figure out how I need to burn, because I do need to adjust it a little bit. I don't want to hit the bottom of those cliffs. And again, you have to, well, when you're trying to land on any celestial body, got to keep in mind the body itself will also be rotating. So wherever you want to land, try to move your trajectory a little further to the right of that, so to the east of that, because that way as the planet rotates, your trajectory will come down right in the middle, as you might see here. Oh no, that's just me making a burn. Pretty sure I recorded that little bit. Yeah, as I fast forward here in a second, just gonna retract those panels, make sure we don't destroy anything on the way down, and also make sure that this little guy here stays at the perfect inclination to get all the maximum efficiency on those solar panels. It doesn't really matter since we're not really going to be using this stage anymore, and it was getting enough energy as it was. But hey, you know what? Whatever. Gotta be a bit of a perfectionist sometimes. Anyhow, here you'll see. So as I'm accelerating, like right now, I'm not doing any sort of braking or anything. My trajectory is getting pulled inwards. That's just because the planet's rotating. So keep that in mind. And yeah, we're just descending on Minmus now, and heading towards one of those ice lakes. They are prevalent on Minmus. They're everywhere, so it shouldn't be too hard to find one of them. I definitely recommend that you try to land in one of the ice lakes your first time, because it's perfectly flat and it is down by sea level, like I said, so it should be much, much easier. And You don't want to land on the side of one of those cliffs or anything like that. Don't want to send your little guys tumbling out of control. And here, I totally thought about doing a cockpit landing, but the problem is the nav ball there in the actual cockpit. There's so much glare on it that I can't really see where my vectors are. So that was kind of rough. I'm sure I'll do it at some point. I'll make a cockpit landing for sure, and probably end up just crashing the giant ball of fire and green Kerbal guts, but it's okay. Until then, we will make beautiful landings like this. And this is going to be really slow. I'm actually going to switch it over to regular time speed in a second, just so you see the majesty of landing on this beautiful planet, or beautiful moon. But so you can also see just how slow everything is on this, because the gravity is so low. In fact, you could even I haven't done it myself, but I have seen it done. If you check out Scott Manley's channel, he does a video where you can take off and get an orbit with just the Kerbal using a full EVA pack. So have his pack at 100% and you can send the little guy into orbit. That's crazy if you think about it. You're sending a guy into orbit off of a moon using very, very little fuel. I think you still end up having a little bit of fuel at the end too. So yeah, pretty sweet. And definitely check out Scott Manley's video on that. It's a really funny one when he does it. I think he has 3 or 4 Kerbals going at once. Yeah, let's just say that not all of them make it. But anyway, this is regular speed right now, and yeah, it barely looks like I'm sinking, but we are coming in for the final approach right now. We are we are vertical actually. And I do use the RCS a little bit just to adjust, you know, left and right and up and down, or not up and down, left and right and the other left and right. Because everything is relative. And anyway, there we go. We got touchdown. Beautiful little touchdown, nice and soft. And it's all good. Extend those solar panels again, just because. Sun is right above us, which is pretty awesome. Also explains why I couldn't see anything as I was coming down. I was looking for my shadow for the longest time, could not see it because the sun is right above. So always keep that in mind when you're trying to land somewhere. Try to keep an eye on the sun or keep an idea of where it is, so you know where your shadow is going to be coming from. Anyway, we're just sending a little Kerbal out here. This is going to be the first Kerbal on Minmus. I don't think he actually makes touchdown. No, because he just goes back to the ship. But just so you can see, I use very little RCS, and look how high up I got. Anyway, just going to send this little guy back to his ship there, the craft that got him here. They've got enough fuel to make it back up top to the interplanetary stage, and that should have enough to get them back to Kerbin, I hope. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. But no, it will, because these guys have a ton of fuel in the lander itself. But anyhow, here, guys, we're just going to take a quick look at the Kerbin system. Make sure, I was just trying to figure out if I was in plane with everything else. And we'll finish it off with a picturesque shot. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.